Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here today to talk about the new 2026 Tecnica Mach1 130 LV.
Yep.
Long name, as many of these boots have, because they've got a lot of information in there.
Yeah, a lot of kind of identifiers as to what it is.
Yeah. Obviously, I am aware of the boot because it is right here physically next to me.
Yep.
But this has been 100% your journey, Bob.
Yeah, and it's been a great one.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have seen me in the Kesley boot over the years, and
Been a lot of orange this year.
Yeah, that Kesley boot has been my staple.
Yep.
And I think
You got a new staple?
there's definitely a lot of things that this boot does that the Kesley doesn't do, and kind of vice versa. So
Interesting.
there's some give and take.
Yeah. You must like it because you keep skiing in it.
I like it, and the ZipFit has a lot to do with it, although I have been skiing in the stock liner the past 2 days
Yep.
in preparation for this review, as I feel like most people will be just skiing it in the stock liner, and
Yep.
I'm kind of here to say that there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, we can, and at the end, maybe we can talk about
Yeah.
your experience putting an aftermarket liner in it. But yeah, without further ado, Bob, you want to tell me what's going on with this boot? I mean, obviously 130 flex, low volume. Typically when we're talking about like a non-race boot, that's the top of the line.
Yeah, and as a skier, I identify as a low volume person, but in
Doesn't
reality,
fit your foot.
I'm usually not. It's kind
that's
of like how you
interesting.
can identify as like, I want to be in a longer ski, but
Yeah.
really the shorter lengths are just fine.
Tiny little nice detail there, how that strap doesn't come out unless you really wanted it to.
The details and finish of this product are nothing short of amazing. I'm pretty impressed so far. But from a nuts and bolts standpoint, and as you're kind of alluding to there with that very satisfying buckle sound, this is a traditional 4-buckle boot, whereas other companies,
where are you going with
yeah, I mean, other companies have really leaned into a full-on BOA, single or double. Tecnica is being a little bit more traditionalist with this 4-buckle overlap design. And that's kind of where it all starts, is they're kind of leaning into that traditional standpoint. Liner is their CAS, their custom adaptive shape. It's a TPU plastic. And then they experiment
Shell,
with
you mean? You said
shell.
liner.
Did I say liner?
Yeah.
Thank you. The shell is that TPU CAS material, and it is on the thinner side.
Just looking at that.
Yeah, so when we get into the Kesley and then the K2 Cortex 140 that we've been skiing lately,
Yeah, they're pretty thick.
this is different. That really relies on thicker plastic to get most of the structure and the power. This relies on a multi-injection and more kind of, I don't want to say moving parts because they are quite static, but more parts to kind of make the boot, give it its character. So
It's pretty light too.
It's quite light. I measured. I put it on the scale earlier. It's just under 2,000 grams with this liner, and
Including your boot cap.
and the boot cap in there, which I'm sure you'll have a question for. Whereas that Cortex I weighed the other day, and it's 2,400 grams. So there's a 400 gram difference between this and a Cortex 140, which, there's something there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for better or for worse. It's
Right.
all like application dependent.
Yeah.
Because, I've seen actually a lot more talk lately, just on the internet in general, about like the benefit of heavy boots.
Yeah.
And like I am here to say that it is not just like a blanket benefit.
No, it's just like skis.
Especially like as a park skier. Like
Yeah.
you put a super heavy boot on my foot and I'm like, literally can't do anything cool.
Yeah. It's
So-
just like skis. And if you think about a heavier ski, a 2,200 gram ski with 2 sheets of metal,
Yeah.
it's going to be more damp. And
Right.
you could say the same thing about that boot.
Yeah.
That's just going to be more damp. There's going to be less vibrations. But that means that this boot excels more in energy, short turns, precision,
Yeah.
stuff like that, where you really want to get good feedback out of the boot. That's where this Tecnica really excels.
Tell me a little bit about T-Drive 2.0 here.
Yeah, 2.0. So we've had T-Drive for a couple years now in these Tecnica boots, and that is basically a rear spine affixation system. I don't think that that's a real word, but that's what I'm calling it. Basically, the upper shell and the lower cuff are joined by this bar that's bolted into both, as opposed to what you normally think of as like a two-piece shell and cuff that's riveted together, and it's just riveted through the plastic. So by having that, in the past, that one bar, they're just adding a little bit more of that flex and energy to the boot, and now we're getting two. So there's one on the outside here, and then that orange one, Jeff, on the inside is the second part. So now they have two of these kind of spine systems that are delivering that flex and that power to the boot. So it's a pretty interesting concept here, and they're kind of taking it from their power block technology from the touring boots. And
do you know why?
Well, the idea is that it is an extra vertical
leverage
layer.
piece.
Yeah, it's a layer in that.
Okay.
So not only are you getting a progressive flex out of it, like it's really holding you in there. But it's also making that lateral move stiffer.
So you do find there's a tiny bit of progression in the flex?
Yeah, but it's not just this, it's also the plastic.
So it's like, speaking about it like that reminds me of Shadow and, what is their term for their...
Oh gosh, you're killing me. But you're right.
It's not spline
it's
drive.
It's that suspension.
Suspension blade? Suspension blade.
Yeah, suspension blade. Thank you. So this is
similar concept?
A similar concept where they're putting in these extra parts and pieces that will allow you to get more power with less effort.
Anything else you want to tell me about the shell?
I do. You can kind of see where this black plastic is.
Yes, I can.
One of the things that I noted is that the buckles are in the black plastic, and you were kind of playing around with the thinness of the orange. When you bend that orange part out, the non-buckle side, it's really flexible, but then you notice that it hits kind of a hard stop when it hits that black plastic.
Yeah, good point.
So the buckles are pulling against that black plastic.
Yeah.
And so when you're buckled in, you're really feeling that direct connection to the boot.
And then you get a little suppleness across your shin.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
A really nice mix.
Yeah.
So super stiff and responsive in the back, and then a little bit more supple.
Hey, did you notice that I'm correctly branded?
No, what a happy accident.
Fun.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about it for the shell. Those are the big stories, is the T-Drive 2.0, this multi-injected plastic, and then their Easy Fit instep. So that black plastic over the instep really helps get in and out. And
normal replaceable grip lock soles.
Yep.
Nothing crazy there.
Nothing crazy there. And then you were pulling on that power strap. And I feel like companies are now kind of making their own version of a booster strap.
Yeah, I mean, this is like triple.
Yeah, so you know how like the World Cup one for booster does not flex?
Yeah, that's like
and
this.
Then the Expert flexes a little bit. This is like a mix between the Expert and the World Cup booster strap. And then just a nice hook and a cam, pull cam. So I have no issues. I would never swap that out for a booster strap.
Sweet. Liner?
Liner. New liner here, again, with their CAS material. It's thermo moldable, and then you can also grind this material out. So you can just take your normal like plastic grinder.
Like on the outside here?
Yeah, and then take some of that material down if you want. But yeah, super comfortable liner. I heat molded the whole thing and put it in, as well as stretched out the forefoot for bunion area. But that CAS material is also in the tongue, so you can also make that feel a little bit more at home through that moldable process. But yeah, super high-end liner here, and no issues whatsoever with fit or performance.
Yeah, you mentioned, I'm glad you brought up fit, because you mentioned that it feels like a pretty accommodating low volume.
Yeah, and I think that might be some people's hang-up on this boot, is because if you're comparing it to other kind of high-end low volume boots like a Nordica Pro Machine, Lang RS 130 LV, I feel like this one is a bit more accommodating than those. So low volume Tecnica fans of the past might not find as much. Like
Sure.
I have a high instep and it fits in this boot.
Yeah.
Like I haven't ground the boot board. I haven't done anything.
Well, and isn't Josh in the same boot and has a similar foot shape to you?
Yep.
And you guys were talking about it as we were driving down to Killington the other day.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so a little bit roomier for a low volume. It's still 98 millimeter 4-foot last, but
Yep.
it's so easy to stretch this material because it is on the thin side.
Yeah. Can I ask you some questions?
Sure.
You mentioned, like, you kind of alluded to its strengths in responsiveness and energy and short turn. A 130 flex low volume boot, I would also want it to carve pretty darn well.
Yeah.
So what are you feeling there?
No issues. You can stand on it pretty well, but again, you do feel and this is only comparative to,
Sure.
I feel like I'm fortunate to be able to ski a Kesley K130P and a K2 Cortex 140.
Yeah.
Where those you just don't feel the same. You don't feel the snow in those boots. This one you do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference between a lighter, more responsive boot like this and then those heftier, more plug-oriented boots.
Do you find that you can, like, manipulate your skis more in a boot like this?
Not at higher speeds
Sure.
than those other boots.
But like moguls,
Yeah.
trees, stuff like that?
And if you didn't know the difference, you'd be more than happy. It's only that we get to experience
Yeah.
these different. Boots are hard to demo and try, and not many people are skiing more than one pair of boots.
They sure
at a
are,
time.
as we have both found.
Yeah. So if you didn't have a frame of reference or a base of knowledge,
Yeah.
you'd be more than happy with this
As a carving boot.
as a carving boot. And
Yeah.
Ryan, our friend Ryan, skis
loves
in
it.
this and loves it.
Yeah, and he is better carver than both of us
Right.
combined.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah,
I'd say
that's
that.
probably pretty fair.
Yeah. Hopefully Ryan's watching and
Yeah.
hopefully he appreciates the compliment on his skiing. Anything else, like from a front side skiing perspective or like an on-piste skiing perspective?
Yeah, the firmer it gets, the more jittery it gets. That would
Okay.
kind of be my
I
limitation.
mean, that makes
and-
sense to me with just like,
Yeah.
with this feel.
Yeah.
It feels kind of, not like jittery seems so negative, but it feels very energetic and quick.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to have both, where you're going to get the quickness and the energy
Yeah.
out of a lighter, more responsive boot like this with a Cortex 140 thickness and heft. Like it just,
Right.
you
Right.
got to choose.
Yeah.
You got to choose one or the other.
I mean, I was skiing my Cortex 140 yesterday, and it was just another reminder to me. Like,
Yeah.
my feet felt like they were stuck to the ground.
Yeah.
They weren't. I
Yeah.
could still jump off of things, and I'm sure I did, but it is a different feel, and
Yeah.
like, not necessarily better or worse. It's just what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that this boot pairs better with certain skis that aren't super powerful and strong.
Well, I was thinking, but I'm glad you brought that up. I feel like it's a boot that matches the skis that Blizzard offers very nicely.
It does. I found that this matched a Rustler 9's flex
Like,
and performance
Yeah.
more than an Anomaly 94.
I mean, that's kind of the vibe I get. Like, this feels kind of free-ridey
Yeah,
as a boot. Is that fair?
that's totally fair, and it does give you. I just feel like it matches the flex of those levels of skis.
Yeah.
Which is still pretty high. You can get a lot of performance out of a Rustler 9.
Sure.
And you can still push an Anomaly 94 or 88.
Totally.
Very hard
With this boot.
with this boot.
Yeah.
For me, I felt like it paired better with the Rustler 9, Rustler 10.
Which puts it, like, in a cool world.
Yeah.
Like, anybody west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like when we talk about, like, your Kesley K130P or a K2 Cortex or, like, any boot with, like, that thicker plastic and
Yeah.
kind of, like, plug boot mentality, we think about it through, like, the Stowe, Vermont lens, where it's like, well, yeah, when it's, like, bulletproof firm out there and we're just railing turns on groomers, then those boots are great. But, take it outside of that bubble, go out west where the snow is nicer and softer and there are less people just bashing,
Yeah.
carving turns all over the place. like it just feels like a fantastic resort boot for.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say it's not for New England, but I think like, what we've been saying about thicker plastic, it doesn't matter as much out west.
Yeah, and just bottom line is that this thing works great.
Yeah.
In all conditions and terrain, and I just think that the amount that I've been skiing it should be a testament to that. That
Totally.
the Kesley has found its way to the shelf recently.
Right. Because I mean, to me, it sounds like you find more versatility in this boot,
Yeah.
more well-rounded product, and considering how you like to ski, it's not like you're a carving enthusiast.
Yeah, I like it fine.
Sure.
But it's not my priority.
But if you're going out, if you were by yourself,
yeah,
and you were going on a ski day, you probably wouldn't just be carving turns the whole time.
no, I would do all sorts of different things.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, like, that sounds like what you're saying about
Yeah.
this boot. Anything else you want to share from a performance perspective? I know you have a deadline to get out of here at some point.
Well, we'll cover all the bases.
Okay.
And we'll go.
What else do you got from a performance perspective?
Not a whole lot, other than I do feel like it. So I will go outside the Blizzard Technica family. Like Solomon QST 100 was a very direct connection. So
Sure.
that
I mean, that kind of seems like
ski.
Wrestler 9 to me. Those
Yeah.
skis are quite similar in what they achieve.
Yeah, and like really just excellent snap and energy. Kind of the snappier the ski is,
The better the whole
better
thing
the
works.
the better that whole package performs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, lots of power. Like I'm 6'2", 225 and drive a boot pretty hard.
Yeah.
And really only a few times have I felt like those times that we're filming on hayride, like that long run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're kind of coming down, you're running out of steam, and then you hit the moguls.
Yeah.
Like that's when I kind of want just a little bit more power and energy, but no major issues.
Obviously, I haven't skied in this yet.
Yeah.
I'd like to try it. But a lot of what you're saying is how I kind of feel about the Nordica speed machine that I ski
Yeah.
in pretty often, which isn't necessarily a low volume. It's kind of like the opposite. I would say it's like a tight-fitting mid-volume.
Yeah.
But I've always thought it was just very well-rounded, and like there are stiffer, more powerful boots, but I don't need them.
No, and I've skied in that, and I have that speed machine as well, and the double boa that you have. So I can provide a pretty direct comparison, and that boot just feels a little bit smoother.
Yeah, that would be my.
Like the flex is a little bit more even,
Well, it's thicker plastic.
thicker
By
plastic.
a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit smoother of a product,
Yeah,
but not a whole lot of performance difference. A little bit more room in there.
sure. You like your boot caps?
I like my boot caps.
Kind of going off brand from Tecnica
Yeah.
here, but
I think if they were easy to take off, I would have taken them off for this review, but they're
pretty
glued-
stuck on there.
They
Yeah.
are really glued on there. Yeah, it's an interesting product. Just provides another couple of millimeters of warmth or insulation. I find that it works better when we're moving,
Yeah.
as opposed to standing still. It does seem to kind of break the cold air and break that wind and keep the snow and other cold items off of the front of your boot. But when you're standing around, I can't tell much of a difference.
Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar with these, they're little just adhesive caps for the toe of your boot that are, their claim is that they keep the inside of your boot 20 degrees warmer than it would be without them.
Yeah. I know.
Haven't stuck a thermometer in there, but they're what, like $50, $60?
Yeah, something like that.
So, I don't know, interesting alternative to heated products.
Yeah.
I've got a pair on my speed machines, so we'll talk about them again sometime.
Yep.
And then working pretty well with your ZipFit liner?
So that's the best. I think that's what's kept me in this setup the most.
combination?
Is the combination. So
Do you find it makes it a little stiffer?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And especially after going back to this liner for the past couple days, you just feel like that solid heel hold that I know you
Yeah.
appreciate. And then in the forefoot, like this material on the side doesn't do me any favors in
Sure.
this liner.
Yeah.
It's not keeping me out of it or making me rip the boots off, but it's just a better fit in the forefoot with that zip fit. And then, yeah, just a little bit stiffer and more connected in the ankle and the heel.
Does it make it a tiny bit smoother?
Actually, no.
That's all just coming from the plastic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was expecting that actually when I went back, that this would feel a little bit more hingy,
Yep.
but it doesn't because there's more padding.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
it's a softer pad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But no, I leave with this setup. Stock is really easy to get into and get out of. The ZipFit makes it a little bit more difficult, but I leave that ZipFit liner in the boot. I don't do it World Cup style.
Yep.
But no, it's if I didn't know ZipFit existed, I would be pleased as punch with this liner and this
Yeah,
combination.
it's a really nice liner.
Yeah, but again, like the overall polish product of this is pretty impressive. Like the details, the quality of build is really good.
Yeah, pretty impressive product overall.
Yeah, they do a nice job making boots.
Yeah. Is that it?
I think that's it. I'll keep skiing these the rest of the year for the most part. I'll probably mix it up just to see what the Cortex is like and go back to the Kesley for a few. But
This has kind of become your go-to.
I mean, our ski test is coming up this week, and that's 3 straight days of full-on snow, and I will be doing this in ZipFit.
All 3 days.
All 3 days.
Well, I'm right there with you. I'll be
Yeah.
Speed Machine ZipFit all 3 days. So thanks, Bob.
Yeah, no, that was really fun, and again, I was always kind of curious as to what would supplant a Kesley.
And this did it.
This did it, and this is the first Tecnica boot I've ever owned and skied in.
You had a Cochise.
Yeah, I spent a few days on that.
You
but,
had one for testing purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I haven't had a personal pair of Technicas ever.
Sweet. Well,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big compliment because you've
Yeah.
been singing the praise of that Kesley K130P.
Yeah.
So if this took its place as your go-to boot, I think that's saying a lot.
Yeah, and again, it's my experience.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
boot reviews and boot information is
So
tricky.
subjective.
You've got to put them on your feet.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it.
So that's it. Thanks, Bob. Let us know if you have any Tecnica Mach1 130 LV questions, or really any questions about any Tecnica boots or other
boots, yeah.
and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And yeah, what else do we got for boots this year? We'll do a K2 Cortex review.
Yeah.
We got some Phenom boots kicking around. We can play with those.
Yeah, and I have like the multiple buckle and boa versions of the Speed Machine.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we'll
do that
talk
too.
about the only upper cuff Speed Machine. So a couple more boot reviews before we wrap up our season of boot journeys.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.